How does this work? How does this work? What the... Merry Halloween.
So it's Halloween soon, which is, by the way, something you can say literally any time of the year. November 1st, it's Halloween soon, just 364 days away. So before some dipshit decides to comment that, oh, Halloween is over, you know what? No, it's not. So leave me alone. Also, when the fuck did I mention 2020? You're just wrong. I'm obviously talking about Halloween 2021. It's Halloween 2021. I'm not late, just really early. Anyways, yeah, so Halloween is soon, so I thought it'd be fun to make an AI that generates Halloween costumes. So that's what we're doing today. So first we're gonna need a data set. After doing some very extensive research, there doesn't seem to be a data set of Halloween costumes, unfortunately, though I'm not too surprised. Which means we have to make our own. I promise it's going to be the best data set. Trust me, if I have to make a data set myself, I'm gonna do it well. As they say, go big or go home. So the first thing I tried doing was just scraping the Google image results for Halloween costume. I figured, Google has a lot of Halloween costumes, just use that. Turns out that's not a good approach because Google images kind of suck. They're very inconsistent. Inconsistent poses, inconsistent backgrounds. And why is Ellen here? Thanks, Google. So I realized Google Images is not the way to go. But then I had a thought, like a revelation. You know who does have good Halloween costume images? That's right, you're probably saying it with me. Wait for it. Walmart. I mean, it makes sense, right? Walmart, which sells many Halloween costumes, probably has many images of the things they sell. So I figured, why not just scrape the Walmart product images, and bada bing bada boom, we have a Halloween costume data set. Or do we? See, the thing is, still it's not quite, as cleaned up as what we'd like. So next, using the magic of AI, I used a facial detection model to identify all the faces in the images and then crop them out. Very advanced AI. Then I used an image segmentation model to identify the foreground and background components of each image, and then remove the background and replace it with a solid color. Magic Wand is a very useful tool. Finally, I resized all the images, converted them to JPEG, and now we have a dataset. With the dataset in hand, there's really only one thing left to do, and that's train the model. Fun times ahead. Now, according to the authors of StyleGAN 2, which is the model I'm using, they recommend using multiple high-end NVIDIA GPUs like the Tesla V100. Which is of course no problem for me because I have many of those laying around. Yeah, they only cost $11,000 a piece. As usual, in AI, nothing is easy. So that meant having to figure out how I'm gonna run these models, where I'm gonna run these models. But you know what they say, you either buy that V100 or don't make Halloween costumes at all. So after contemplating whether I wanted to spend all my life savings, a grand total of $400. I said, okay, fuck it, let's go, let's do it. And I decided to spin up a Google Cloud instance with a single V100 GPU. But as I said, nothing in AI is easy. And of course, that extends not only to the hardware, but also to the software. Because after I had my V100 instance, I was spending hours debugging memory issues. And guess what? It turns out that it's not the VRAM that was the issue on the instance, it was the regular RAM. Turns out that I had more than enough GPU compute, so after spending hours to figure that one out, I decided to up the amount of RAM on the instance from 13 to 26, and now, with a V100 GPU and 23 gigabytes of RAM and 4 virtual CPUs, it was ready to train. And it actually did train, it went really fast. Which it better be because I'm paying like $2 an hour for this shit. And now, it's the moment of truth. Time to find out if I just wasted 3 days, maybe like 4, I don't even know how long it's been training. A lot of time training and like $300 of compute. Nice. So before we look at the real meat of this project, the final results, the magnum opus of Halloween image generation, let's take a look at some of the earlier attempts I did. Because of course, I wouldn't just waste all my money on one single experiment, right? So these are some Halloween costumes generated by an AI. And from afar, they look actually pretty good. I mean, when you're all zoomed out, sure, they look like Halloween costumes. Let's zoom in, shall we? Then we start seeing some fucking nightmare shit. What the fuck is this? So here are some of the ones that I think, that I particularly like from the earlier runs that I did. This one here is one that I think actually turned out really well. This one, on the other hand, looks like the AI tried to generate a shirt, but instead covered it with urine stains and coffee. So I think this has to be my favorite one so far. Look at this one, it's so boring, plain. This one makes no sense. This looks like some sort of vase from the ROM or something. And then there's this. If this is not a caricature of the gods, then I don't know what this is, because it's a masterpiece. This is the magnum opus of AI. There's definitely an emerging pattern here with the AI, because it really likes adding these appendages. I don't know what it's trying to do, but I fucking love it. Probably it's a tail, but I refuse to believe that the AI is generating tails like this. I really don't know what's going on here, but I just fucking love it. Anyway, so I think that's enough of looking at earlier runs. Let's take a look at some of these final, these grand, the cream of the crop results. There are, of course, some very good ones generated by the model. This one right here, of course, cannot be mistaken for an astronaut suit. This one here looks like the AI tried to make a Transformers costume, but then completely fucked up, which is of course a general trend for all the Halloween costumes. Of course, while I think that the AI generated Halloween costumes are pretty good in their own right, I think the real usage for this AI is generating modern art. This one, for example, it's a stellar piece of postmodernist art. It's just a great example of what you'd come to expect from a work of art. Here's a piece by the AI which I like to call Tinfoil Man, which clearly depicts a man wearing some sort of reflective tinfoil-like material. I think this creates a great juxtaposition for the current situation that we're in right now. Of course, what I'm talking about is the 5G rays that are emanating from nearby cell towers, and this costume clearly is trying to depict the deflection of these rays. One might wonder as to the effectiveness of such a costume, but honestly, I beg to differ. In general, I think that the AI-generated art looks actually pretty fucking sick. I'll include a few more examples, especially the latent progressions which show the model trying to approximate a real image. But in general, I actually think this turned out pretty well. Image generation is not an easy thing to do. Art generation is incredibly difficult to do. The AI nailed both of those stellarly, spectacularly. It really goes to show the depths at which machine learning has revolutionized. Oh my god. If you want to replicate these results, I'll post the dataset. Otherwise, good night.